invested in the lives of fictional characters. Best-selling author Lexi Kingston has been enamored by fictional worlds since she was a child. She became obsessed with the allure of crafting characters people could relate to. Lexi writes sweet, no-spice contemporary romance, Kingston, and paranormal romance as Lexi J. Kingston. Books with characters who fight for and find fun in each other. When she's not plotting or writing, she's likely submerged in a book. And when she's not reading, well, she's probably writing again, because she's a workaholic who loves her job. Very true. All right, so to get us started, since you're someone who is too invested in the lives of fictional characters, which I understand, which of the characters surprised you most? Maybe misbehaving, stealing the spotlight, any of that stuff?
Probably there's a Nightfall series. His name was Elliot, and he was sort of like the grumpy, never was supposed to steal the spotlight. Like he just caused problems in the background. And I had a specific plan for him, and I was always going to kill him off. It was my plan from the first book. And as I was getting through the series, I just kept thinking about it. I'm like, I can't do it, because he just started to build this rapport with another character.
You found out your plan.
Yes. Exactly. He was like, you're not doing that to me. I mean, you think that writers control the plot, but we don't. I mean, these characters tell us exactly where to go. And so basically, I wrote it the way I wanted to, and I read through the whole book, and I was like, it didn't feel right. It was heartbreaking in a bad way, not in like this search for plot. And so I killed someone else off instead.
So should have had it coming.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. But yeah, so he was one that really surprised me, because I never intended to care about his character that much. Like, I wrote him to be someone you didn't like, and then I ended up really liking him, and I gave him his own side plot. So.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very interesting how they kind of take over like that. Huh. Very cool. Okay, so in your latest book, which is, I keep getting this and that mixed up, That Girl and This Guitar, so I have to look at the cover. There's a musician as one of the characters, and music plays a big role in the storytelling in this book. So I was wondering, do you write a playlist to go with your books? If you do, is it like before and after? And another question with that, do you listen to music when you're writing?
So to answer the last part first, I usually only listen to music when I'm writing if I'm really stuck. And by listening to music, I mean I put on one song and I put it on repeat for hours while I write. So that's just my way to like kind of get into a specific mindset, and I just hear the song over and over, and I don't know how to explain how it helps me, but it does, just helps my brain with whatever scene I'm working on. And then I do playlists for my books. So sometimes if I do listen to a song, that one goes on the playlist like while I'm writing. But usually I try and find songs that encompass the feeling I want the book to convey, as well as the characters and just their journey. Like the nickname for the character in this book is Oklahoma. So any song that says Oklahoma that I think actually goes with the plot line that I have, I try to incorporate into a playlist. And I usually do that after I write, not beforehand. Because I just honestly love shuffling my entire playlist and finding a song that I've listened to forever that I'm like, oh my gosh, this perfectly represents what I'm trying to say in this book. And I love music, so it's very fun for me.
Cool. So you search within music that you personally are already familiar with?
Usually, and I mean I do go outside of that sometimes, but I find a lot of music through Instagram ads actually. So sometimes I'll be writing a book and I'll just see an ad for a song and it's perfect. That happens to me a lot. Don't understand how, but I just, yeah. So then I download it and it goes on the playlist and I love it. Yeah.
That's really cool. And do you have like a QR code or something in there for the playlist?
You can find it on Spotify if you search my name. I do not have a QR code in there, but the best songs that represent the characters are listed in the front of the book. So there's usually like 5 to 10 of those. Okay. Depends on the story and how many songs I find, but yeah.
That's really fun. Cool. Okay, so you write both sweet contemporary, which are over here and here, and paranormal romance. So these, what draws you to each genre, and how do you switch gears Because I imagine it's a very different feel. You probably listen to different kinds of music and
Yes. So I write like I like to read. I can go from a vampire romance book to a super sweet small town contemporary romance book like that. Like I could read one day and one the next. So when I write, I feel like it challenges me more to just write different types of characters. And I love that no matter which genre, because they're all romance, so it just comes down to the connection between the characters. So whether you're a struggling musician or a 200-year-old vampire, it's just about how you fit and belong in the world and the people that are in it and just kind of finding your place. So that's usually my aim, and it just makes it easy for me to switch. It's just circumstances are different.
Is there a certain band that would, or certain music that you would say makes you feel more like you're writing the vampire stuff?
Probably rock more.
Okay.
Yeah. And then for my contemporary, it's more country, pop. Again, depends on the characters, but yeah.
Awesome. So we're going to talk a little bit about that girl on this guitar. Shay Tanner, the female main character, she has 3 rules. What inspired those rules?
So I thought a lot about this because I was also, in addition to plotting, I was looking for a hook for the book, which those rules work really well for me to market. And so her first rule is that she will never date a co-star. And if you follow any sort of pop culture, you know that when a couple is together in a TV show, sometimes they end up together in real life, and then after that movie or the TV show is done, some time passes and they usually break up. So it's just, you're there, you have feelings for the person, it's easy to just fall in love with them. And so she does not want that to happen to her. And then her next rule is that she will never compromise her morals for a part. So she doesn't want to do anything that would disrupt the foundation of just her value system. And so I wanted to show the contrast between when it's okay to bend, as well as knowing when bending your morals could break you. Because in the future, if she falls in love with an actor, the worst that can happen is she gets her heart broken. But if she compromises her morals, which she is put in a position where she might have to in this book, that can affect her for the rest of her life. And so I really wanted to draw attention to that. Just like I said, to know when it's okay to just step out of your comfort zone and do something that you said you might not do, but to also know I stand firm in what I believe, so I'm not gonna just change what I believe in because somebody is asking me to, or because it might make me more famous. So that was a big part of writing her character, and it's a small plot in the book, but I think it says a lot about her character.
I love that, and I think you did a really good job with that particular plot line.
Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about Dustin now. Dustin is the male main character. He's a brooding ex-musician with a soft center. What's your secret to writing emotionally layered love interests without relying on spice?
Character development, whether it's in their own lives individually or together. I think that every time I write, it's fun to decide, are these characters gonna grow separately next to each other, or is meeting each other going to help them become better people and learn who they are? And I think that emotional connection, it really says a lot to their foundation as a relationship when you don't need to have the spice in it. Like that can come later. I think that it's fun to just see how they connect and how they interact without it first. So that's usually how I go about it. It's just knowing who they are as a character.
I think that adds an interesting depth to the books too. Cool. All right, your stories are about characters who fight for and find home in each other. What does home mean to you in the context of romance?
Just respect and having somebody who fights for you, even if they're fighting with you. So even if they don't agree with you, or like I said, if there's this huge blowout between 2 characters, it's important to me that they both still communicate, even if it takes them a minute, because they want the best for each other in whatever regard that might be. So I think that's home, and that's somebody who can just quiet all the noise.
All right, I'm going to talk about some behind the scenes stuff. As a workaholic who loves her job, what does a perfect writing day look like for you? And what might throw it off track, aside from the actual music changing to a new song?
Yes, that would be very bad. Just general interruptions sometimes, like if I have a day where I have nothing else to do and I'm like, I'm gonna sit down and write, like I am getting 2,000 words, even if it kills me, like this is getting done. And then I get an email that's like, just anything that's like, okay, now I have to deal with this. I have to go do all these other side tasks for it. That kind of throws me off a little bit because then I'm in a different mode. For me, marketing, advertising, and writing don't go in the same day. If I'm writing a book, I basically stop marketing for a couple weeks. I will schedule out some social media posts and I will have ads set up to run on their own, but everything else kind of goes on the back burner because I can't at the same time focus on like the angles to market your book and also build an entire story. Does that make sense?
It does.
It's like two different parts of my brain that just clash. Yeah, it's very difficult for me. So a perfect writing day is definitely just no distractions, outside, preferably sunny and warm. I like to sit on the swing on my back porch and just have the quiet and I just write my books. That's my favorite way to do it.
I'll have to send my kids over to help you. So do you like to sit down and have like a day where you can do 2,000 words, or do you try to do longer stretches, or?
Yeah, I can sometimes, if I have no interruptions, I can get 7,000 words sometimes in a day. But that is pushing it, and that is like if I know exactly what I want to say. Because if I'm just like sitting down and I don't know exactly what I'm writing or exactly where this chapter is taking me, which I hate, that's usually when I need a song on repeat. Then sometimes it's hard to get 100 words. But so I like to have a long stretch. Like if I can get every day in that week writing and doing nothing else, that is what I'll do. Like I put my emails off sometimes. I shouldn't, but I do. Just for my own peace of mind.
Not to keep dwelling on this, but I'm curious. So how long does it typically take you? Like you mentioned about stopping the marketing for 2 weeks. Are you talking about like writing a whole book in 2 weeks, or are you talking about drafting and being like, this is kind of sloppy, but whatever, and getting part of it done? Or
it depends on the book. So it usually takes me about a month if I have no interruptions to get an entire book on paper, a rough draft. I don't like sloppy rough drafts, so I try and make them the best that I can just because it makes editing a headache. But I will sometimes squeeze a day of marketing or try and get an hour in. But yeah, a month is pretty much it for me.
That's really fast.
And then editing is a whole other story though. That takes me usually about a year. I like to let 6 months pass in between writing a book and editing it because it clears my head. I leave comments so that I know exactly what I need to change and what I need to fix. And then hopefully it's all still fresh in my mind 6 months later. But I think it helps me look at it more objectively because when you finish a book, you're super close to the characters. And I'm like, I love you, you're perfect. And then 6 months later, it's like, oh God, what did I do? So that's a better way for me to be like, okay, this needs to change. This is as good as I thought it was when I wrote it. That kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I usually can forget everything within 2 days of writing the whole book, but I think it helps to give a little space too, so you aren't so committed to what you just wrote. It's almost like it's like if you make a meal and then you're eating the leftovers for several days, by the end you're like, I'm gonna just throw this last one out and nobody's gonna notice, because by that point you're less tied to all that time it took to cook the meal.
Yes, I agree 100%.
Yeah. So, okay, so back to writing That Girl and This Guitar. What is a scene that was especially fun or really challenging for you to write?
I'm gonna go with challenging, and it's a scene in this book. So my main character Shay throughout the book is slightly jealous of another character, Caroline, but there's no real reason for it. It's just her own jealousy. And so there's a part where they're in the bathroom on set and they're both in their own stalls, and so these girls come in and they're talking bad about Caroline. And Shay's listening to this and she's kind of thinking, that's not really fair. She didn't do anything wrong. They just don't like her because of the way she is. And then it kind of occurs to her that she did the same thing, although she wasn't vocalizing it to anybody. She judged her based on her own insecurities. And so that scene, it's minor, but it was a very important one for me to get right So it was hard for me to write it in a way that I wanted to make sure that, Caroline hadn't done anything wrong, and that you can see that it's just your own preconceived notion that makes you dislike this person. Because I feel like this whole world is full of snap judgments sometimes, and if you don't like somebody, sit down and think about why. What is it about them? Like, why don't you like them? Why are you jealous of them? Because usually, again, it's your own insecurity inside, and it's just easier to not like somebody. So.
I can see how that would be a hard scene to want to, like, you've got to get it just right to get that point across.
Yeah, because you don't want to say too much. It's like how I just spoke about it. It's not a whole paragraph. It's not a whole page. It's just a minor moment where the character realizes what she has been internalizing.
So, okay, so since you write series, I was wondering if you ever write with the readers in mind. So, like, if people have read a couple of the books and they comment on posts, or if you get a response to, like, your newsletter or something, and there are comments in there, oh, I'd really love to see this, or I don't like this character, I hope he dies, or whatever. So any of that kind of stuff, do you ever kind of take that into your head and kind of work it in, or?
Yeah, a little bit of both, I would say. So when I publish one book, I usually have the next one written already. It's something I like to do so that so here's the thing about me. I have a hard time writing the next book if I already have reader feedback, which is a very backwards way of doing it, but I don't like any other voices in my head when I'm writing. I want to let the characters take me where they want to go, and then I refine from there. So it's not an immediate thing, but I do take into consideration what readers like about certain books. So if they like an element of this book, I may try and incorporate it into the second book a little bit more, or if they find something funny, and I'm like, I didn't think that was funny that they like this quirk about this character, but I can add more of it in there because they love that. So like I said, I do a little bit of both. One of my books, Fall for Me, everybody just loved the small town, really hot summer vibes, and it's a palate cleanser book. And I had a lot of fun writing it, and the response was readers had a lot of fun reading it too, and it's different than the rest of my books. And so it's something that, as a writer, I'm considering of shifting gears to write more just sweet palate cleanser books like that, because we can all use a reset. So
I agree on that. That was this is one that I read, and it was one of those, like, I just needed that. Awesome. Okay, so because you do have a lot of books out at this point, you've had the chance to write a lot of different tropes, I'm sure. So what is your favorite trope to write, your favorite trope to read, and one you'd never touch?
My favorite to write would probably be friends to lovers. I like the foundation just of characters who've known each other, sometimes all of their lives, just discovering new things about each other. I think that that's very fun to explore. But to read, I would say enemies to lover, because I love the banter. It's so fun for me to read those. Like, that's what I really enjoy. And then one that I don't read, honestly, I feel like surprise pregnancy. Like, if it's at the start of the book, like if that's the whole plot, is like one night stand, surprise pregnancy, I don't want to tell the father that I have having his baby. I've never been a fan of that.
Okay.
Like, if it happens like in the book, that's fine, but like at the very start, if that's the whole plot, it's just never, I've read a bunch of them, and I've never had one that I really enjoyed, like, that I really connected to, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I don't think I've bumped into any of that.
Really?
I didn't know that was a thing either. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there was a movie a while ago. You might have been a kid when it came out. There was a movie a while ago, and it was, there was, I can't even remember who was in it. So, side plot. That's interesting, because I don't think I ever run into that one. But the enemies to lovers one, that's always fun, because you get the snarky sort of stuff back and forth. Yeah, and there's some really creative, like, insults that, so I can see that. That's fun to, I have not written that, but do you have any that are like that?
Yes. The second book, Endure May, second book in the 13 Days of December series, they don't really get along at first. They're not, there's different enemies to lovers. There's like, we super hate each other, we will never be friends. They just don't get along and they bicker a lot, so it's a little bit more like that. But yeah, that honestly, that was one of my favorite books to write just because of their banter. And I love that moment where the characters do something totally out of character because they're starting to have feelings for the other person even though they still won't admit it. That's probably one of my favorite parts of that trope.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what's one fictional couple outside of your own books that you'll always root for?
Damon and Elena from The Vampire Diaries. That's my favorite show ever. They have a special place in my heart always. Yeah.
Do they inspire the I can't remember the name of this. Does there a name for the series? Yeah.
No, not necessarily. I've always liked vampires. I mean, when I was young, there was My Babysitter's a Vampire on Disney Channel, and then obviously like Twilight, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and The Vampire Diaries is one that I love. Plus, it's an 8-season show, so you can really get invested in it. But no, I wouldn't say that they necessarily directly impacted the series, but I always like the vampire. I just think it's interesting. So yeah.
All right. So for the future, so this one is book 1 of the Lonely Melodies series, and we already know you've written half the series already. What's coming next? What's going to be the next story? And will music also? Well, obviously it will, but like how will music play a role in that one?
So the next book in this series it's going to involve the band more. So they just got back together, so they're trying to figure out how they work as a team. So I mean, obviously music is just going to have a big part in it because I mean the songwriting that they do and dealing with the record label and all of that. But the second book is more focused on a character that was in this book and her journey of healing from something that she went through in the past. And then after this series, I don't have plans to write more books with musicians. I think music will always be an important part of what I write because I love it so much. But I think I've kind of bottomed out with the rock star type books after this. But yeah.
So how many are going to be in that series then?
4. Plus, I just wrote a completely unplanned companion novel to the second book in the series over the summer when I was supposed to be editing the third book. But that'll have to wait. So I will be releasing the second book in the series in March, and then the companion novel is going to come out in August. So
I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
How do you decide to space your releases out? Like, what goes into that?
I usually try and do 2 books a year, but it's also dependent on the type of book it is. So the third book in the series is called Colliding with Summer, and it's going to take place in the summer.
Okay.
So I try and line them up seasonally. So the next book, Callous and Scarred Hearts, is going to be released in March because it takes place in the spring. And until I wrote this companion novel, I was only actually going to have 1 book next year as opposed to 2 come out. But it sort of works out because it takes place in the summer going into the fall. But I usually try and do the fall and the spring. But I mean, if I'm behind on editing, I usually, like I said, I usually have a book done before I release the first one. So it makes it easier for me to know, okay, can I get this book out within a year? Do I need 6 months? It honestly depends on the book.
All right. Last question from me. Do you already know how the series ends, or do you think the characters are going to surprise you?
They're probably going to surprise me. I know how each book follows a different couple in the series, and so I know how their relationship is going to end, but I don't know everything else. Like, I don't know where the other characters are going to be when we finally, like, when it comes to a head, and I don't know what I'm going to have the band doing yet. So I'll figure that out when I get there.
Well, I'm excited to find out. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to open it up for questions. Any other questions for
I have
Lexi?
like boring bookstore questions, but that's the nuts and bolts, right? So, say a reader walks into the store and they see your book spread out, and I know you've got like some are no spice, some are spicy, but they say they're open to anything. What would be the ideal starting point for a reader? Like, what would you suggest somebody getting into your books?
So actually, all of my books are no spice, but I would recommend Fall for me usually, just because it's a standalone and it's a very good introduction to just my writing style and the characters. And like I said, it's light, so I tell everybody it is just the perfect read for a sunny day on the beach. That's what I wrote it to be. It doesn't take itself too seriously.
Do you think it gives people like a good sense of your writing style and character development stuff?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's who I am at the heart as a writer. And I branch off again. Obviously, I have two different genres, so I go in a lot of different directions. But again, it sort of pulls together everything that you will find in the rest of my books.
Okay, next question. Do you have a favorite romance writer? Who would you say is your favorite?
I don't know that I have a favorite. I jump around a lot. Honestly, my favorite romance book is probably The Chase by Elle Kennedy.
Okay.
So I do love her books, but I read anything for the most part. It's very hard for me. That'd be like asking me to pick a favorite song, favorite author. It's so difficult.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Is she no spice too, or is she?
I think she's spicy.
Okay.
All of her books. She might have a couple closed door, but I don't believe so.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What has been? This is such a cliche question, but because we've talked about her Ingram troubles, I don't know if you've commiserated with her or taught her your ways yet. What I imagine that's a pretty big hurdle. Ingram is like where independent authors will put their books up so that bookstores can buy them. What would be like another hurdle that maybe you did not expect to encounter
In publishing?
in your writing journey? Has it been like reaching readers? Has it been getting your books out there? Has it been, I imagine like coming up with ideas is not that difficult for you, but
I honestly would say the advertising.
yeah.
I mean, I've been doing this a little over 5 years, I believe, and it's still probably my biggest challenge. It's just, my brain isn't wired that way, and I can get an ad to work really well for a couple weeks, and then when it comes to tweaking them and making them better, it just does not work as well for me. So, I mean, I've taken courses, I've done all the things, but that's something that always challenges me.
It's a very fickle system too, if you're like using social media primarily to get your book out there.
Yeah, fighting algorithms is not fun.
No. I know a lot of authors have trouble talking about themselves or trying to like sell their books because they feel like it's, do you have that issue as well?
Yes, yeah, I'm not one to talk about myself, and then describing my books can be difficult for me. I mean, I know I wrote the whole thing,
Right.
but it's like, if I read a book by somebody else, and you ask me what it's about the day I finish it,
Yeah.
I probably couldn't tell you, but I know I loved it, but I just can't explain it. And so it's very difficult for me to do that for my own writing because, you want to touch on points that are gonna engage readers and be something that they actually would want to read, but it's just hard to talk about what you write, especially because you're so close to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That elevator pitch though, that's like really, that's important.
Yes,
So.
for sure.
Try to help you come up with one. Thanks. That's all.
Do you plot your books first when you're writing?
I started to. I never used to. I would sit down and I would write out the book. Usually no idea where it was going. Most of my ideas stem from a simple scene. It could be just the most insignificant line in a book, and I build an entire series off of it, generally. But I started plotting just because it can be a headache when you don't know where the book is going, especially when you're doing a series. The series was initially supposed to be 5 books, so I was going to go through all of the band members as well as like the small town family that's involved, but I couldn't get out the rest for the one band member, but he was already in a relationship, so it sort of worked out. But there were just going to be complications with that going forward, and I just didn't know where to go with it. So now I sit down when I start a book and I'm like, okay, this is what each book can be about, and even if that changes, that's okay, but it just helps give me a roadmap.
Do the books that you have for a series, do they end on a cliffhanger, or do they wrap it up real nicely before you go on to the next book?
They wrap it up. this series, they wrap it up in every book, but they need to be read in order. This
Mhm.
one, they can be read out of order.
Okay.
So that's my goal with this one, so that I can market them all separately. But yeah, I'm not a fan of cliffhangers. This series does have some cliffhangers because it's one point of view throughout the whole series of the same characters. So there can be like a cliffhanger, but they're all out. So
I'm not a cliffhanger person either.
yeah, no, especially like if you have to wait 2 years for the book. Frustrated. Like I need to know.
I feel like
I'm
maybe
the same.
society's moved on here a little bit, just like looking at Netflix and how they just I mean, between seasons there could be a cliffhanger, but
Yeah.
it used to be every episode. You have to like wait a week to find out.
Yeah.
I forget if I'm watching a series,
I
like
know.
if there's even a break. Like I know a few years ago I was watching a series on their Christmas break and I forgot about it. And like 3 years later somebody was talking about it. I'm like, oh yeah, I used to watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wonder if that's part of the no more cliffhangers thing. We're not going to remember what happened anyway. We'll just know we were mad at the author.
It's hard for
Yeah.
authors because you can't really put like a previously on, you know.
Yeah.
like,
Right.
That's so true. Never thought of that.
Although you could. You put a QR code at the beginning and be like, if you forget what happened, because we all do,
Yeah.
scan this and it goes to you on YouTube.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea.
Yeah.
For sure. Huh. Something to keep in mind for your next book.
In case you forgot, I did too.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to reread it also before I wrote the next one, so.
Do we have other questions?
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming out here. I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks for having me.